I got Detox greens. Dandelion, cucumber, celery, spinach, kale, and pineapple. Let's take the first sip. Oh yeah. It's pretty green. It's pretty green. Yeah. So, yeah. I'll get it down though. And I've got more in the refrigerator because I juiced a large amount. I wanted to use up my pineapple. And I found out dandelion greens go bad really fast once you buy them from the store and get them home. You got a couple days max. So I had to juice them all. So the dandelions was a bunch like this. That's what the stems were, and so like you can imagine all the leaves. There's a lot of dandelions in this. Yeah, this one's harsh. This one's harsh compared to the other juice that I make. That I made a video of juicing with the apples. Apples as a sweetener against those things, it makes it much more sweet than this pineapple against all these greens. But I understand that's what makes it a detox juice, so. And I'm glad to detox. I'm feeling really good as I do it more and more. And I like that I chose to do it at a pace that just feels more comfortable, rather than forcing myself into going the full-on fast like I had planned. I just decided to listen to my body and just realize like we don't have to go so hard, you know? Like I used to do that in my younger years. And I think I was more desperate in my younger years because I was driven by the want to be attractive and all that. And now I'm driven by the want to just optimize my vessel for carrying my wisdom. So it's a much different approach, you know? Being internally driven by care and love for myself rather than being externally driven by the want to be loved. So different. And this way I get to enjoy chocolate still when I want it. Probably the other serving of juice is going to taste a lot better because it'll be chilled. This one's not chilled, so I thought we should pull some cards. What are you detoxing from? We'll use this deck that I'm working on, which is about the mechanisms for coping and defense that humans sometimes utilize and the ingredients of. So, I told you the ingredients of my detoxification juice. I'm also using these cards to detoxify. And I think it's really helpful, you know? Yes, I feel incredibly called out. Yes, it's uncomfortable. But, you know, I've been going towards the discomfort for a long time. And yeah, part of me just wants to rest, so I rest. And then I go towards the discomfort, and then I rest, and then I go towards the discomfort, you know? Like I give myself both things that I need, right? Because I don't want to just avoid the discomfort because that just involves avoidance tactics and strategies and things that I've already done. You know? I'm looking to expand and I'm looking to create in a way that is new and fresh and, you know, fresh like this juice that I just juiced. And that's gonna take me seeing past the veils that I have for myself. I feel like I should mix it with water. Not like in the cup, but I mean like drink water also. Staying hydrated is really important for this part of our journey as well. And our bodies are probably telling us all that. So let me see. Oh, it's 4:44 right now. I just moved my phone and it flashed the time. 4:44 and all's well. I used to say that all the time. 4:44 and all's well. Okay, we're going to use Palo Santo for our picks. So, this one has bark on it. Interesting. Okay. So here's the 3 pieces of Palo Santo as the picks. Pick 1. This one has the bark on it. Pick 2. More average piece. Pick 3. Has a lot of this marbling. So use your own intuition to decide if one or more of these has the information for you to reflect on, a message for you. And we're going to start with pick 1. Palo Santo is nice, right? I noticed that the seller that I get it from on Amazon has been very low on their availability, because I usually just like every couple weeks order 1 pack so I can stay ahead of my need of it. I've noticed he's been sold out for a little bit. So I don't know what that means, but I know God will always give me what I need, so I'm not going to worry. But if it means others are ordering it because they are enjoying it and benefiting from it, then awesome. I'm glad for them. Okay, pick 1. I'm just shuffling the cards and we're going to ask for information about what could be veiling your view. What needs to be detoxed from you. Got some PTSD is coming out here, and not taking responsibility. So what came to mind just then is, you know, for a long time, we were told PTSD just can't be cured, you know, and we were given a lot of the examples about like our soldiers being traumatized in the war and then they had PTSD, and then like we couldn't be holding them accountable for the crazy shit they did if they pulled out a gun because they had PTSD or something like that, you know. And gosh, I'm not trying to put down veterans or make light of that by using it as an example at all, just so you know. But I'm just remembering back to my first introductions to this concept of PTSD, and my understanding of it at that time, you know, was that was what happened to people who were in like tragic events. You know, later I found out there's a version called CPTSD, which is when you're chronically in traumatic events, and that PTSD can happen, you know, for lesser events than being in a literal combat as well. You know, it depends on the person. It depends on their ability to process what is happening. So PTSD is a post-traumatic stress disorder is what it stands for, but what we now know is that we can heal ourselves from post-traumatic stress. And it takes the same process that I'm always talking about when I talk about healing. And that process has been used by me, and I don't know if it's going to work for you, but if you haven't tried it, you might be interested. There are some earlier on videos, maybe like 2 years ago, I started doing kind of like videos aimed at poking at the shadow. And I really prefaced what we kind of need, the ingredients we need for healing. And one of them is a comfort zone, like a comfortable place, a place that you feel safe. Like you're not going to do your healing when you're already stressed and overwhelmed and doing things for other people. No, you need a quiet space where you're going to feel safe to unpack, some difficult emotion that you're going to end up being present with. And so if you don't feel ready to do that, then this isn't something that you'll want to address at this time. But this other card is saying not taking responsibility. And so the reason why I prefaced all of that and with everything that I just said is because, there are a lot of stories out there and reasons for us to not take responsibility for healing ourselves from this. And sometimes there's a hidden benefit for having it, right? Like if we can just say, oh, I have PTSD, then we can kind of get somebody to understand they should back off from us because we're kind of sensitive in that area, you know what I mean? And there may be other more subtle ways or more overt ways that PTSD as a situation or experience that you've held on to is serving you, like the hidden benefit. Like there might be some benefit that would have to be addressed first, and this would because we have these benefits, sometimes we don't want to take the initiative to heal ourselves or take the responsibility for healing ourselves because it's serving us in some way. And so it's up to you, just kind of like the same way I prefaced in the intro about my juice fast, where at first I was going to go on and do a juice fast, but then I decided to kind of take it easy, just drink some juice and rest, and then do some more detoxing and rest. It's up to you at what pace is comfortable for you for addressing the issue. But what this is just basically saying is, yeah, you do have some of this veiling your view. So the things that can happen when we've been traumatized is we're looking at life through a lens of trauma, meaning like we might be hypervigilant, we might be very nervous, we might be like jumpy when there's sound, things like this are all going to be like coloring our experience of life. And if you have a lot of those things, it's degrading your quality of life overall, right? And sometimes we don't even know we can take responsibility for these things. So if you didn't know, then just know this reading is not about trying to make you feel bad, shaming you, or blaming you. It's simply an invitation to an idea that you may be able to help yourself when you are ready, at the pace you are ready, if you feel qualified to do so. And always reach out for help if you need help. If you feel like you're in danger, if it's so overwhelming, you have to go into this when you're in a place of knowing that you're not going to hurt yourself or anybody else. Those are very important ingredients to this. I'm fortunate to have been competent and strong and able to work through my trauma on my own. But that's because that's my skill. That's because I came into this world like all equipped to do shadow work for myself and others. Like I can see in that place, I kind of I had faith already. I already was tapped into the bliss. I already knew what I was working for. You know what I mean? So it might not be that way for everybody else. Like maybe you have a skill in something else that you're really good at, but this is something new to you. You know what I mean? So just because I could do it doesn't mean that it's not a hard thing to do. And it doesn't mean that I wouldn't diminish. I don't want to diminish the fact that, some people might not be equipped to do it on their own. Okay. I want to take it very seriously because I know it feels very bad. It feels just, you feel disempowered. We've got selfish. What's coming to mind is one of the behaviors that can happen when somebody is traumatized and they're not taking responsibility for it themselves, and they're kind of sitting in the stance of I'm a victim. Be wary, walk on eggshells because I'm a victim. Is that they can be selfish like that, right? Like, I can think of somebody in my life it's a couple, and both are traumatized, but one holds it more together. One is the more supportive role to the family, financially especially, and the other rests in the PTSD and expects the other to walk on the eggshells, to treat them with kid gloves, and all of that without realizing that that other person's just as traumatized as them. You know what I mean? So they don't realize it either, right? Because when you're traumatized, you can't think of the other person. You're in a literal state of overwhelm, and it's always happening. So until somebody says something like this to you and points it out, maybe you don't even realize, like, oh gosh, there's a whole nother world out besides me out here, and there are people that I care about that I might be walking on a little, that I might be expecting too much of, that I might be relying on, putting burden on, that is unnecessary. Okay? Now again, I do not want to shame or blame, because we're all evolving, we're all learning, we're all healing, we're all understanding more and more each day, and our awareness is expanding. So it's okay to have done it the way you've done it. Trust me, I've done it. I was agoraphobic for 7 years. I didn't leave my bedroom, and depended on my family members to get me food and to do a lot of things for me. So I know now that I was putting burden on them because I did not know how. I did not even know I could take responsibility for healing my trauma. So, it can be both. You're not branded for life by making the choices you make to survive in. It's okay to be where you're at. Accepting where you're at is actually one of the steps to healing. Okay? It's really important that we're very gentle with ourselves through this process, that we're very caring for ourselves through this process, and not that we're doing it to please the other people, but that we're doing it to take responsibility for ourselves, because that's the loving thing to do for ourselves. Really, you're the one who can best care for you, because you're the one who knows what you need, because you're the one who can hear it, because it comes from inside. And if you put that responsibility in someone else's hand, and you can't control what someone else does, you really are setting yourself up to be further traumatized. Okay, one more. Suspicion. That's another thing that happens when we're traumatized, right? Because we are on high alert, because we've been treated bad, because there's something that's happened that has made us hypervigilant. Now we're very suspicious of other people's motives, whether they're going to disappoint us or hurt us or poke us in the hurty place, It's hard to trust somebody else now, right? Even though there's a part of us that wants to so much. And what this is, it's kind of like this echo chamber of projection of lack of self-trust, because you're not trusting yourself to caretake yourself through your trauma. Now you're also suspicious that everyone else is not going to really caretake your trauma either. Okay? Okay, so let's see if we can get a word of encouragement before we let you go, okay? Because this is possibly a tough thing to hear. I want to ask this deck, tell us something that pick one is doing very well. Where is pick one in their power? You are very adaptable. And you're able to be adaptable to changes that are happening around you. You're quick like a fox. So maybe that includes your wit. right? Your ability to strategize, right? How much have you been strategizing to make sure that your trigger doesn't get poked? How much have you been strategizing so that the people outside of your life don't put too much pressure on you and fulfill your wants as much as possible? You know? How much have you been strategizing and adapting to the people that you don't trust or that you're not sure if they can trust? You know what? All of that is a skill that you have and that you'll be free to use in other ways once you free yourself from this trauma. Okay, so remember to reach out to somebody if you do need help. There is freedom from this on the other side of taking responsibility, okay? And self-forgiveness and self-love and gentleness and grace for yourself all the way through, please. Okay. All right, pick one. That is your information to reflect on. Remember, it's just information to reflect on. So only take it if it's true for you. Only take it if it's helpful to you. And whatever isn't, leave for somebody else. Okay? Okay. Thank you for doing the good work. Thank you for coming back. Perhaps we'll see you in the next one. Okay, pick 2. You chose this Palo Santo. And I'm just going to put it back in the bag. All right, let's see. I think I want to shuffle these a little bit. We're looking at what can you detoxify that's kind of in the way of your clear view. Insult. Have you been using insults toward yourself or another? Or taking it personal when somebody has insulted you? Separation. Outside authority. I'm just going to get a few here to kind of get the biggest picture. Compensation. Okay, it looks like this coping mechanism may function like, you pissed me off, this is not how it's supposed to go, you're bad or wrong, get away from me, or you owe me. If you're going to come back into my life, what are you going to do to compensate me? Yeah, okay. So if there's a falling out, it turns into something where you are taking it very personal and you feel insulted by somebody's behavior or conversation or expectation of you, or them not meeting your expectation of them. That in itself is an insult to you. So you're taking something personal that actually isn't necessarily personal, right? It's like their thing. And what they're doing has reasons rooted in their stuff. But you're taking it as like a personal insult. And then you want them to make it right. They have to now prove to you that they are worthy, that they have made up for it, that they understand that that was wrong, something like that. So maybe you witnessed somebody acting like this in your childhood and you kind of adopted that and maybe have not even realized that you've been doing that. Maybe all the people around you operate in this manner and it's sort of normal-ish for you or whatever. And this is a power struggle way of relating. And there is one component here that says that you are looking outside of yourself. Like, this person needs to appreciate what they've done to insult you. So you're actually putting in their hands your value, because you're acting like a victim to what they did. And actually what they did is just what they did. You may have felt victimized by it. They might have even hurt you. They might have even tried to hurt you by insulting you. But if you know yourself, if you know your own value and your own worth, that's not going to affect your worth, your value. It could only affect whether or not you want to be having that person in your life continuously if they are insulting you. But if it's because they were late and you're taking that as an insult, there might be some unreasonable kind of stuff in here that you're taking to mean that they don't value you, and therefore you feel like your value has been diminished and you want it restored. And really, you can take your value back. You can know yourself enough to know that you are valuable, whether or not they're late, whether or not they stand you up, whether or not they ghost you. Like, what if this person died? They're not going to be able to assure you anymore, are they? And you're still going to have to live, and you're still going to have to survive. You can't depend on anyone outside of you to be the source of your value and worth. And when you take this responsibility back within yourself, to know your strengths, your weaknesses, and to know that you're a valuable person and worthwhile, you can stop taking it personal when others don't know that. So as long as you know that, that's all you really need. Now, it doesn't mean that you're just going to put up with it when somebody is actually insulting you, calling you names or, whatever. If they're really literally doing that, then you don't enjoy the situation that you're having with them. You move away from it. That's valid. That's an easy choice because you love yourself. You move away because you love yourself. Yeah. The other way this could play out is if you have somebody who's insulting you, but you stay. You don't separate. And this does say separation, so there's something about separating here. And but say you didn't leave the situation, but you just demanded that they change, right? This is like tyrant being trying to control somebody else to like get them to act right so that they can support your view of how you'd like things to look. And actually, that's all fake and surfacey. Like, you got to really like dig into the discomfort here to get to the depths of what is really important. But if we wear rose-colored glasses and we only deal on a surface level, and we want things to look a certain way, like we want our boyfriend to bring us flowers, so we say, you should be bringing me flowers once a month. It's like, do you really want the flowers once a month just because you said so? They're just like jumping through the hoop that you laid? Or do you want someone, to bring you flowers only when they feel drawn to do that, because that's the kind of person they are and that's how they express themselves? You know what I mean? That's depth. And if someone is not living up to that fantasy story that you've made for yourself, like, people bring me flowers, and like someone doesn't do it, and then you feel angry because they're making you see that this is not true, and that can really like trigger you into this reactive state of insulting them because they didn't live up to your fantasy that you created, something like that. So I feel like I've danced around it from a few different angles, what this energy is saying. So you just kind of got to see it for yourself. So this will be better pinned down within you by asking yourself some questions, right? Like, do I have an inner locus of control or an outer locus of control? Meaning, do I take my prompts to action from the outside, like what other people think I should do? Or do I go inside to do what I want? And if I'm doing what I want, why do I want it? What am I trying to achieve? What is my motive? Ask yourself some what if questions. What if it doesn't happen that way? Am I going to be okay? How does that feel? What would be so bad about it if something else happened? Find out where you're kind of like rigid. Because sometimes when something doesn't go according to plan, it happens much better. You don't want to cut that out all from your life, And if you're asking for someone to like pay you back or show you that they've changed or whatever it may be to compensate for whatever went wrong, you could ask yourself some stuff like why do they owe me? Why do I feel like they owe me? What do they owe me? What does it mean if I have that? What does it mean if I don't have that? Those kind of questions. These insults, like why am I putting up with insults? Whether I'm dishing them or taking them. Why am I doing this? And what is it achieving? And what is my intention when I do it? And is it in line with my values? Is this what's important to me? And am I being the example that I want to be for my children, for others in the world, And then we've got separation here. Honestly, like a little bit out of loss for why I have this in this deck. Hold on. Separation. Please show me why separation came out into this deck. It could be a level of compartmentalization. You could ask yourself, what are your motives with separating from this person? Are you separating from someone to punish them, to make them think about what they've done, things like that? Or what are you trying to achieve? Is this a game? Like, is that the hot and cold game kind of thing? Or is it trying to leverage your power, you're using your love in a way to withdraw in order to punish or withhold from somebody else? Like, these are all power struggles. Can you look into power struggles in relating? Can you look into, we'll call it power struggle relating. I think that would bring you to enough information where you'd get the gist and maybe recognize some patterns in yourself. It's very natural for this to have happened, right? When you've come up in the society that we're in and the way things have been going. So I want to make sure that you're not shaming or blaming yourself. This stance can come with a lot of pride sometimes, right? Because you're trying to live up to a certain image or a certain expectation that comes from outside of yourself. And that means that it could be your pride getting hurt, right? And like that is a layer that you're going to have to deal with within yourself, like, allowing yourself to be humble. Like, can you radically accept that this is where you're at? Can you deal with it within yourself to know that you are actually working on bettering your relationship, not only with others, but with yourself? Because you matter. Right? That's what your whole thing is. You're trying to get people to know that you matter. And what really needs to happen is that you matter to you. You're the one who needs to know that you matter. You don't have to convince anyone else. You could know it amongst a whole room of people who don't know it, and you would still feel okay as long as you know it. I can attest to this. When we know our own love, We stop trying to seek it from someone else. We stop needing it from someone else. We stop feeling inferior to anybody else. We stop needing anyone else to prove anything to us, to jump to what we need, to fulfill our expectations. These are relating dynamics that you kind of see as futile when you love yourself. You can see that they came from and originated from a lack mindset of like, I don't have love and I need it. And then to realize that the solution is to love yourself can be really disheartening at first. And I understand that. So might be some tears shed when you come into that realization, like, oh, it's up to me. Because, basically, like as a child, this was probably something lacking. This is probably stemming from a dynamic that happened in childhood first. So that means in childhood, you probably never got the recognition, attention, or, were not considered as important as you would have liked to have been considered. And so this has felt like this like longing for that. And it's like, well, now you're an adult. Now you're going to have to do it for yourself. Even kids are having to do this for themselves now, because this is just a product of the way that we were parenting, and we didn't know any better. So now that we know better, we've got to do better. But there's a transition, right? Before we get to parenting our kids in a way that doesn't cause this, we've also got to clean up ourselves as the adults we are. So it's up to each of us to kind of do this for ourselves, and there might be part of you that says this isn't fair, it's not right, and it's okay to feel those things too. It's okay to like have a fit for a minute with yourself and cry and say this isn't fair, this isn't right, I hate this. And you be with those emotions within yourself, because that's a child part of you that felt those ways, and it needs your love. So be with it while it feels those things. It's okay to feel those ways. Understandable, right? So, it's beautiful that you'd find yourself here ready to detox, and by the way that it's been working for you in your relationships that it's not actually working. So you've come to this place where you're ready to kind of face it and get into the nitty-gritty stuff. So that is honorable. That is beautiful. I've asked this deck for something that you're doing really well. Okay, so let's look at what are you doing very well. Foresight. You're able to see what is in store for the future. So you're someone who can get that big picture view. Who, when you're not in this kind of, micromanagement of others or how you're treated or things like that, you can actually step back and kind of look and see the trajectory of where you're headed. So even in this process, you can probably kind of see like, oh, when I do this, it's gonna change this dynamic, and it's gonna change that, and I'm not gonna have to act this way anymore, and I'm not gonna have to have those friends anymore, and I'm not gonna have to tiptoe around this person anymore or kiss this person's ass anymore, and I'm not gonna be demanding that they kiss my ass either. And just so good. So you have really strong assets and skills that will help you through this process that you're going through. Okay, make sure you reach out for help if you need it, and take this at a pace that makes sense for you. It's only information to reflect on, so only take what is useful and helpful to you at this time and leave the rest for somebody else. Okay, pick 2. That completes your reading. I picked 3. That Palo Santo with the marbling. I'll put you back in the bag. And we're looking at what you can detox to clear the view for yourself at this time. And we're looking at the ingredients to coping and defense mechanisms. We're using this deck. I'm just shuffling a little bit. We got an ending. feel like I just gotta shuffle for a little while longer, okay? So we'll just sit together while we do this. It's a big deck. Entitlement. Okay, so what I'm seeing so far is something is ending. Maybe you're fighting against it ending and not feeling like, yeah, I got hesitance. Not feeling like you're ready to have it end. And maybe you feel entitled to something. Maybe entitled to make it easier, entitled to whatever it is that's ending. I don't know what this is. It could be a relationship. Like these cards are like flipping out here. There's confusion, like lack of clarity. Maybe you don't even know why it's ending. Distraction. Oh, separation was hidden under there too. It's interesting. Yes, okay. Okay. So it seems that you're hesitant to let something end, to separate from something. And instead of figuring out and letting yourself find the clarity on it, you're just staying in the entitlement of it. Like, you're kind of like fighting what is. And what is the ending, the separation. There's an ending to something that you've been using to maybe distract you from other things in life. Or and now you might even be distracting from the fact that it's ending so that you don't have to deal with it. And this is keeping you confused about the fact that it is ending, you know, and feeling entitled to it is keeping you from facing why it's ending and facing that it is ending. This is interesting. Okay. So let me just ask Spirit for some more guidance on this. Hold on. Okay. So while you're fighting against what is, it does not feel good. That's why you need to distract yourself, maybe with drinking or overeating or whatever it might be, right? There might be some sort of addictive pattern. Let's see what else. This person, I wanted to say this person, interesting. Conformity, I didn't take it, but it was starting to flip out of the deck. Conformity, they didn't do what you expected. See, you expect something. You feel entitled to something to happen a certain way, and something's not conforming. This is confusing to you. Maybe every other thing has turned out this way, and this thing's not turning out that way. You are very much attached to this. It could be codependency. It could be that you kind of just were expecting it to go another way. And I think to add to the issue, inhibited self-expression. You're not even able to articulate what this is for yourself, because maybe you know that what you felt like you were entitled to, maybe there's part of you that knows that no logical person would agree to that. That, like, this is not, you couldn't possibly be really entitled to it. It's just in a fantasy mind game that you're playing with yourself that you're entitled to it. So the fact that it's ending, it's like a huge tower moment for you, and maybe you've been resisting it to let go and resisting to have it happen. And that's what's going to cause the tower moment for you, okay? Because this confusion that you're letting yourself stay in is going to end, and that's going to end by some sort of like, the veil's just going to drop, and you're going to be like, holy shit, oh, that's how it is. And it might be a little bit humbling, right? But after you realize like that it's gone. But the reason that would happen was so the universe could let you see what was holding it up. What was holding that up? An expectation, an attachment to an outcome, an entitlement, and just your stubbornness, really. And the hesitation and the non-acceptance of what is what will hurt. When we separate ourselves from reality, that hurts a lot. The way to start feeling better is to surrender into what's true, okay? So you'll stay confused unless you allow yourself to look at some very uncomfortable things here. So just do it in chunks, just do it, as you can. We've got inhibited self-expression here, and so I feel like writing letters that you don't send are going to help a lot through this situation, because you'll be able to see yourself in the letter. You don't have to send it to, if there's another party here involved, you don't have to send it to them. If it's a job, a group of people, an expectation of an event or something like that, write the letter, but you don't have to send it, and you'll get to kind of process a little bit with that. You'll get to see yourself and how you were handling it, and what was the entitlement, and what were you attached to, and why were you hesitant, and all that. I kind of feel like I want to get one more card. This is very interesting. I didn't expect this to come out as the message. So it's like, as a coping mechanism, as a defense mechanism, you're defending your own hurt feelings by being in denial that this is something that's ending. You're hesitant to let it end. You're holding on to something that's got to end. With every ending comes a new beginning, so don't forget that. But do you really want to denial and pessimism? Do you really want to have your new beginnings start on the same grounds of entitlement and attachment? Entitlement and attachment are ingredients to an unhappy ending all the time. Because entitlement is appropriate for an infant or in a business deal. Attachment is appropriate for an infant. So I kind of feel and hear this feeling of like, well, why couldn't I attach to somebody? This is my person, or this, Okay, I get it. Because maybe this person would have been able to grow and learn with you, but you weren't able to express that, right? Like, people will grow apart if they're not growing together. That will happen all the time. So perhaps you were attached to this person for an appropriate amount of time, and then it came to a point where you grew apart. Now, why? Because there was no getting on the same page. I think communication would have had to happen for that, right? Or you would have known this, or you would have accepted this in a way of through understanding instead of through confusion that it's happening now. It's happening because there was no communication. And the communication would have cleared up the confusion. It might have even prohibited the ending. But without it, the growth continued on. But whatever is making it hard for you to express is also the thing that's making you feel pessimistic, which is also the thing that's making you cope by being in denial of an ending. That is happening. And it is due to the ingredients that you put in. So in order to detox from this, you have to look at yourself and look at, like, why are you feeling pessimistic? Okay, maybe things like this, maybe things like this happened before and it hurt, or you couldn't trust somebody else, or, maybe why are you denying it? Like, because it hurts and you don't want to deal with it, kind of stuff. Like, look at those things right in the face. Be with the parts of yourself. Accept that is, and be with the parts of yourself that feel those things. Promise yourself that you won't hurt yourself or anyone else. Maybe write the letters you don't send. Maybe cry it out. Maybe, stomp your feet a bit and get right with what reality is. This is reality. This is where you're at. Every ending allows for a new beginning. When you begin again, don't you want to begin on the grounds of being able to express yourself, of being optimistic, of being in touch with reality, of not being entitled, but being able to engage in a balanced, fair way, where the other person or the other entity or the other group or the other whatever it is has its own free will as well, is its own thing. Don't you want to feel clarity for your new beginning? You're only going to get clarity if you go head on into these issues. So this hesitance and this distracting are tactics that will only serve to keep you confused and keep you in denial of what's happening, when you do have an opportunity to go in another direction. Now, let's ask this other deck what you are doing really well. I want to make sure you know that I'm not shaming or blaming you. I mean, I'm kind of reminded of a relationship that I should have ended much sooner, but I just couldn't, because I loved him and he just kept breadcrumbing me to, I allowed him, but it was like I used him to kind of be there until I got myself into a position where I could be like, okay, yeah, you're right, this is gotta go, And maybe I had some karmic backlash for that in itself, because kind of using him, but even though I was using him under the premise that I was being victimized, but it did get to myself to a place where I could actually let it go, But facing it head on, that would be my choice today if I could do it all over again, Okay. Empathy is something that you're doing really well. Speak less and listen more. So empathy is kind of putting yourself in the position and the energy of the other person. And empathy actually amplifies the energy. So by amplifying this energy, you might be able to see things from the other side and understand why things are the way they are, right? There's another side here, and you're really good at doing that. You're really good at listening, right? So there's something here that's been expressed that could clarify what's going on. And you can sit in the energy enough to amplify it in your own self in order to really get it and digest it and be with it. And also, if you are able to be present with whatever emotion it is, whatever feeling is amplified, then you're the one who can be present with it, and then it can't kind of like hurt you anymore, right? Because you're like the adult version of you who can handle processing it. Yes, it might be painful to process things that like sadness and grief and endings, but having done it, you know that you can do it. And now you're not feeling victimized, and now you're not hesitating, now you're not backing away, now you're not in denial and distracting yourself and pretending it's not there. Now you're like, all right, what do we got here? And now you're also not hesitant to head into your new beginning, because if you don't handle these things, then you might have a wall up in your new beginning, and you're just going to match up with another situation that's going to try to bang down your wall, because that's what the universe does. That's your karma. This is a karma energy that's going to repeat. You have to balance out each of these energies by accepting them in yourself and understanding that the opposite is also true. So by looking at the other point of view, after you've looked at your own, after you've accepted your own and processed your own, you can look at the other point of view to actually balance and neutralize this energy, so that when you start fresh, you're starting from a foundation that is solid, that you can handle, and that you're like mature, you know? So you can use some of the skills that you have here, right, already to help you be matured through this process of something very difficult that you're detoxifying now in your life, or being given the opportunity to do so anyhow. And if you don't do it now, it sounds like this will have another opportunity to do it. But like, I don't think it gets easier every person that you bring into the mess. You know what I mean? I think we are honored when we take responsibility. You know, the universe starts responding. It's like take a few steps and the universe kind of works with you. Like, you know, you get this momentum thing. Momentum really counts for a lot. You know, if you think about, like, you're pushing a car that won't go, and you're just like pushing it. You know that once you get the momentum going, now it's a lot easier. Now you're going in that direction. Now you feel like, you know, the weight of the car is in motion. I don't know why I'm using the broken down car analogy. But it works. It got me a new car one time. When I was pregnant with my first child, I had to push my car to get it started. So I was leaving work, and I had to like roll start my car, but I was pregnant. And so I went home to my boyfriend. I'm like, we got an issue here. And so we went out and bought a brand new car. My very first brand new car. So that was my new beginning, right? When I got it into, when I spoke up and expressed myself. And imagine if I didn't. Imagine if I just stayed quiet, stayed suffering, pretended the issue wasn't there, acted like I was a victim, and acted entitled to have a running car, demanded of the universe, why isn't my car running? You know? It's going to be all right, pick 3. I really honor you and your willingness to look at this. And remember, it is just information to reflect on, and you're only meant to take what is helpful, useful, and true for you. So if it isn't, don't take it. And perhaps we'll see you in a future reading.